The demands on marketers can seem overwhelming. Now with AI, you're expected to be a generalist. Everyone is expected to be able to automate workflows and run agents. But my guest today, Reggie Tan, is an exception.
AI tools, especially as it relates to marketing, it's just making us all really good, really good at what we do.
He embraces a generalist tag.
You decide between specializing in one specific area or becoming more of a generalist. I decided to go the generalist route.
By managing AI throughout his workflows, he's able to run 3 businesses. He executes across social, design, video, SEO, paid ads, and landing pages. And in the next 40 minutes, he's going to walk us through exactly how he does it. All right, welcome everyone. So happy to have Reggie Tan here. He's got a long list of accolades. He was an OG member of Myosin. I've been working with him for a good year or so. He's a fractional CMO with Story Mode, co-owner of this co-working space in Niagara called Haven, and a founding partner of the Metaverse Bar Association, among many other things. Anyway, Reggie really knows what he's talking about when it comes to AI. Today he's going to show us toolkit for marketing generalists, and I cannot wait for you to get started. So take it away.
Thanks, Shane. As usual, it's fantastic to be able to collaborate with you on this stuff. One of the things that, like we've talked about a lot before is the fact that, AI tools, especially as it relates to marketing, it's just making us all really good at what we do. And so like one of those things that kind of come about, which we talked about before, is that there's a typical point in your marketing career where you decide between specializing in one specific area or becoming more of a generalist / strategist, right? I decided to go the generalist route. It was like in the late 2010s when you try to be a one-person army, you realize very quickly that you can't do that. You have to delegate, you have to do all these other things to be able to get the job done. And then eventually as a generalist, you kind of maybe even move up to being a strategist at some point. And the good thing about strategists is you think the bigger picture the whole time, and you're able to delegate where necessary. Problem is a lot of times as a strategist, you don't actually do anything because you end up just getting documents after documents. So like now we've kind of reached a stage where we have the ability to, again, delegate, but instead of delegating to like an individual person, we also have an additional resource, which is AI. So what we're going to cover today is my stack, at least the current stack that I'm using, which I'm sure is going to change in about a month. But it's what I use as a stack to be able to get the generalist stuff done more than anything. So as a strategist, strategy doesn't mean anything without the proper level of implementation. And that can mean working with really good people, but also means using really good tools to be able to help support the outcomes, which is what matters, because people aren't paying for strategy, they're paying for outcomes, right? So for today, we're going to cover 6 primary things. So as a generalist, you're pretty much expected to be the Swiss Army knife, the wearer of all hats. You're expected to do social media, you're expected to design, you're expected to edit videos, you're expected to do SEO for organic, paid for paid traffic. And you're looking at landing pages as well too, because you got to send those ads somewhere.
Even if you're brought in as a specialist, you're kind of encouraged to lean across different verticals. So this
always
is really useful for anyone.
And you're supposed to know everything too, right? Because I think that the hard part is being able to be, as they call it, jack of all trades, master of nothing, right? And I learned that quite quickly. I think one client in 2020 where I felt like I was just doing everything, but when you do everything, you're just not able to do everything very well. You're stretching yourself super thin. And so being able to use the right tools to be able to get there, that's how we're looking at it, right? So in no particular order, but we'll start from the top with this, just because I think that every marketer with every client has a different set of needs that they need to deliver on. But we'll just kind of run it from this perspective. So social, we'll start with that. So my social stack, and this is just some background in terms of what this is. This is an animation I use with Claude Code to be able to develop it. I personally dislike slide decks. I think everyone knows that for that matter. But what I did instead was I built this in Claude Code. And so with social, what I learned is how to be able to build out an entire automated social stack, specifically using a few tools to be able to optimize the copy, as well as to schedule content out there. So this animation kind of represents kind of like what it would look like if you're in Claude Code, for instance, or Claude Cowork or Claude Chat. You ultimately can interface with different connectors And so without having to stare at this repeatedly and then go what it's doing, the main stack or the main workflow that I would particularly use is going from Claude to using intelligence tools to be able to improve your idea and create content in written format that first off doesn't look like AI, and second of all, is aligned towards the algorithm, that you're writing for. Getting your feedback, because obviously like human in the loop is the most important aspect to AI. Finalize and finally being able to schedule it out automatically, right? To give that perspective, and I can kind of dig a little deeper here.
Yeah.
I prefer Claude Cowork because of the scheduled routines. I don't need to have my computer on, you know what I mean, when it comes to do this. I do have a computer on at home, but it's more so for coding. But this is specifically my active working computer where it's like, you want to be able to, in my case, on Monday morning at 9 a.m., scrapes the latest topics related to AI marketing, for instance, right? And presents them at 9 a.m. and also asks me what else is happening this week as well, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I have a few businesses I run, so I have my mind is like constantly in every which direction for that matter. And being able to take those ideas and parse them into something that AI can go ahead and just segment and figure out is super important. I like Cowork just because it's native. It operates really well for this kind of task or tool as well. You can activate using skills, and if you're not using skills, we could talk about that in a sec. The general output, it uses a lot of what Claude Chat does. It just feels like it's on steroids a little bit.
So you've asked Claude Cowork to create a recurring news roundup that is sent to you every morning at 9. Is that it?
Monday at 9, because I think of it like the rest of my week is so slammed that I've carved out only Monday morning for just let's create the content for the week. You know what I mean? For
news relating to what?
For me, it's like AI marketing for my co-working space. It could be about, just co-working and maybe Niagara or something like that, or Niagara on the Lake as of whatever's happening out here. For my clients, it could be anything from, music. It could be anything from wealth management, whatever it is, just in terms of creating content for them. So the idea is to have a whole rundown of what's happening this week and since I like to riff and just kind of talk, I usually just use something like Whisperflow to be able to just speech text everything for beginning and end. And then,
do you give it back feedback? Like when you get the news roundup, are you like, I like these sorts of stories, don't like these?
Always, for sure. You got to tell it. You got to tell it which ones you like and don't like, because there's a premise that they call, some people call it this, I like it, but it's basically like the 10-80-10 rule. 10% is your human input, 80% of the work goes through AI, and 10% is your human review or feedback for it. So I think that's like the ultimate goal. I think it doesn't get any better than that because you really want to put the right input. If these topics work, if these topics don't work, and here's some stuff that you wouldn't have known and scraped online that we're doing. Even if you wanted to take a little bit step further, you can use the connector to search all your Slacks, your VoIP platforms for transcripts. You can check your Gmail, check your ClickUp or your Notion for any new upcoming things, and it'll still pull that to be able to say, hey, this thing's coming up on your calendar like this week, and hey, this Myosin Learns talk is coming up on Wednesday. Things like that. That it'll if you have Claude Cowork, it'll allow to be able to go ahead and scrape those all your individual tools to be able to get the stuff you have coming up before you even think about it, right? So
yeah, awesome. All right, intelligence tools.
Yes, intelligence tools. So this is where this is the cool part. I think this is probably the coolest part. So this is the part where you just take a bunch of ideas, and everyone screws this part up. They basically just give it to Claude, give it to ChatGPT, and say, okay, make something of it. The problem is when you have everyone doing the same thing, asking the same entity to create the same poster, everyone's going to have the exact same content, and you kind of end up with this whole dead internet theory, whatever it's called. But like, what you really want is to be able to utilize whatever skills you can. I like 3 skills specifically that I use within my workflow. One of them is obviously HiveMind, and I'm sure if you're a part of Myosin, you know exactly what it is, which is this ultimate marketing strategist, super intelligence. By all means, I think of it like probably a culmination of so much of what Myosin has done for clients on the marketing sphere, and having it all built into one super intelligence, which is sick. And available on Product Hunt if you haven't heard about it yet. So definitely take a look at it and upvote when you get.
And we have a Myosin Learns video on it as well, so I'll link that in the YouTube.
Yeah, That's a great idea. So yeah, HiveMind's awesome. And I run a lot of things that I do through HiveMind just to get a perspective, which is always, especially when it comes to research, especially when it comes to go-to-market, I find it has a really great perspective on things that I wouldn't have thought of. I certainly wouldn't have been able to get from prodding away at default Claude or something like that. What I do like though is these two skills that I found on GitHub, specifically by Sergey. I'm going to butcher his last name, but Sergey Bulev. But two really awesome Instagram and LinkedIn skills. And what you do is you basically just ask Cowork to install these skills to your Claude app. What it does is it'll take a little bit and just kind of integrate it so that when you type /Instagram marketing or LinkedIn marketing or Instagram skills or LinkedIn skills, it'll pull this skill and apply that skill towards whatever your request is. And these are really good because like these will actually pull directly from what the Instagram algorithm, LinkedIn algorithm does. It understands viral loops and understands character truncation for when to get to the read more button. So it's really smart at being able to do that. So I think of it like HiveMind for the strategic angle of it. And these specific two skills for being able to build the overall framework for it. And then yes,
we can find those on Sergey's GitHub.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see I linked it here. I could pass a link to this app as well too, so people take a look at it. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then lastly, I usually run it through a writing skill. I like this guy's writing skill, which just takes away all generic LLMs. Like, I don't know, Claude always says actually and it says honestly, and it's outside of all the M dashes that it does, it takes away from all the context aware stuff. And on top of that, I have my own personal writing. So usually, like what I did was I used a scraping tool to scrape all my LinkedIn posts, fed it back to Claude, asked it to learn how I write, and then created a separate skill specifically for that. So it's almost like 4, if you want to call it that, but for the everyday person, these 3 are pretty awesome.
How good do you find that one?
So I think it's good on its own. I think it's not that good, but I think if you have the HiveMind for the strategy, you have these Instagram, LinkedIn skills for all the technical stuff, writing skill to remove anything AI, and then just a final pass that just sounds like you can get like 80% of the way there. I don't think it's perfect. None of it's perfect. And none of it should be published without being looked at. But you still got to go in and make the edits to make it sound like you, because that's what makes us human, right?
Yeah.
So then once you're done with it and it finishes all this stuff, usually I have the automation thing kick me at like 1 p.m. to be like, okay, show me the posts, right? It probably could do it a lot sooner, but I just, carve out time during the week. And then I just review the content that it presents to me, make edits as necessary. And then when I say, feel free to publish, it publishes through this app called New Link. It's kind of like Buffer, Later, whatever, for social scheduling. I like it because, as you can see from here, it covers everything from like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Google business profile, like you name it. It kind of has it covered across the board, which is neat. And then you can go ahead and schedule content from there. The UI is a little bit, as you can see, kind of dated by all means, but it is one of the few that have an MCP server that you can connect to Claude to just have it interface directly without having to actually go to the website to take a look at it. It's like $18 a month, I think, for this thing per brand, but it's pretty rad.
And so those couple of steps that you had, the intelligence steps, do you run that automatically, or do you manually, type the skill or whatever?
Yeah, so what you do is within that routine, you can basically ask it to do all of those things. So once you've got, it's like all one shot, you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes I like to do it manually just because I like to see the output between each step. So it depends. Like sometimes I'll just usually tell it in the morning to be like, just run it through the garden, and then we'll take a look at it at 1 p.m. And other times I'm like, I'll just manually type in the, like show me the post, and then we'll run through HiveMind and run through, LinkedIn and Instagram skills towards it, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's social. And the cool thing is that, you're able to kind of build it from idea to publishing with very minimal feedback. But the thing that also is, I guess, a blocker is, something like Instagram, which requires images to be also uploaded and generated. So one thing I kind of looked into was how do you design in an AI stack for this. So Canva, which everyone uses, has the ability to connect to Claude through an MCP. It's not the most ultimate designer in the world, but what it does is it allows you to take an existing template, which you just have to let it know which template you want it to use. And it'll swap out the text, swap out the images. It'll do a little bit of design work on it. But it's great for when you have existing templates like social graphics, blog post graphics, things that are just recurringly done without having you go into Canva and have to manually change everything. And if anything, it'll just get you further away so that you can go ahead and make edits afterwards as well. Not perfect, but I don't think anything from not that I've seen. And if there's other tools for design, I'd love to hear it. But so far, the Canva MCP is pretty good. I mean, considering it's like $18 and you get a whole like Photoshop Lite, pretty much, it's pretty sweet.
Higgsfield is pretty spectacular for creating new designs, but obviously,
yeah, Higgsfield. You told me about that, man. I haven't had a chance to jump in on that.
Too many tools. That I feel is real frontier stuff.
Yeah, so many tools, so little time, right? So yeah, the stack would therefore be. And you could, again, bulk this together. My stack technically is a combination of both, which is Claude Cowork for the routine, the skills to be able to improve it, passing the finalized post through Canva to design the image, and come up with a title for it, etc. And then pass it to me for review before scheduling. So you could technically bulk these two together to be able to provide like a full like rundown from idea to writing to design to feedback to scheduling.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool.
I'm just trying, I don't know, like when you pay for Adobe and then you also pay for Canva, you feel silly doing both, but the time saving is probably worth the $20 a month.
Yeah. Figma too.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Cloud Design's pretty rad for it. If you're thinking of like, it's not fully Figma, but in Canva, but it still gets pretty far with it. So the other thing you always got to ask for when you have a client is they want organic traffic because they don't have to pay for it. And so SEO becomes a topic of conversation when it comes to this. And as someone that like I've had Ahref like on a personal level paid for that for like a full 5 years where I barely used it that much just because I just didn't feel like going into the interface all that much. When I did, it was there, and it's a powerful tool. And if you're a marketer, you should be using an SEO tool of sort. Obviously, SEMrush is another option at the top of the list by all means. But Matt, one of our members, he introduced me to Data for SEO, which has an API that you can plug into, significantly cheaper than $150 or $150 a month, whatever Ahref is now. And Data for SEO is just purely API token based. So you load your wallet up and you just you make calls and it just deducts off of it, which is way cheaper. Quality not as great as Ahref, but nothing really is. So what I'd like to say is like for SEO, you could plug in as a connector both Ahref if you have it, and if not, Data for SEO if you want a less expensive option. I have both because I just like having the option of having like two perspectives at the end of the day. And the workflow would essentially be, hey, here, use Ahref to pull a backlink report, for instance, for a client. Pull me the current backlinks, the top competitors, as well as their top backlinks as well too. And then it's able to pull up and create a report using Claude for being able to do it as well too.
From there, once you've got the report?
Yeah, once you have the report, you can go ahead and review it, pass it to the client, whatever you want to do as well. But the cool thing is that you can see from when you're using Claude connected to like Ahref, you have options of being able to pull different individual features, like the content gap is a pretty popular one. Backlink research is really good for Ahref, although Data for SEO just recently released it for their lower plan, which is nice. You don't have to top up as much into your balance to be able to get it. Referring domains, they both do search engine optimization, AEO, for AI, which is incredibly important as a business owner right now. I got a heck of a lot more people saying that they found us from AI, and paying members and people that just came in through the door because they heard of us because they were recommended by ChatGPT. So important factor when it comes to it when you're thinking about that. But the good thing is this allows us to be able to not just do the research for it, now take it and be able to create blog posts from it, or be able to what improvements could I make on my page right now to be able to have better AEO, for instance, right? And it gives a kind of like potential for being able to build out a full framework, whether it's a Claude Code app or whether that's a Claude Cowork schedule routine, or if you're just doing stuff on the fly in chat. This gives kind of like a full breakdown of like a whole bunch of stuff you can just prompt without having to go into a UI and learn everything all over again, which I find super powerful, especially if you're creating prompts for, doing an audit, on your client's website, or if you're doing a backlink like research, or doing keyword research, specifically which keywords they should target for blog posts. If you need to things like that.
How established is AEO as a science? As in, to me, it seems like a lot of people say they can do AEO, but the actual results are not clear.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I think everyone's saying they do AEO because they have to say they do AEO, because all of the potential clients that are coming through the door are asking about that as well, right? Mm-hmm. The behavior of looking for an answer has changed significantly, because obviously for the longest time people were just going to Google for that. But with people's search behavior changing towards just going to an LLM, it's SEO agencies have to pivot towards being an SEO agent to being like I don't know what they would call it now, but basically a hybrid of SEO and AEO, because it's about being able to find discovery at the end of the day. But yeah, it's not ready yet, though. I feel like we're still far away from really fully understanding it, but
exactly, because if you and I both ask for the same LLM for the same answer to the same question, we'll get different results.
Yep,
so
that's true.
It's very difficult to imagine in the back end how you can optimize for AEO if it's so personalized or different.
It's very true, and I think that with AEO too, when you have think of it like you have one side of it, which is your LLM of choice knows your preferences and will most likely give you recommendations based on those preferences as well too. So you have that skew, which is good and bad, but good from the perspective of just having it cater towards you. But the websites itself need to have like the typical setup. So it needs to make sure that robots.txt is not screwing things up. You need to make sure that your proper schema is set up on your site, so it's able to be scraped and answering questions in the way that it does. And so like there's as long as you're doing SEO best practices, a lot of the time you'll mostly, if you're set up properly, you'll be able to have AEO set up in place. I mean, when we started the coworking space, I wanted to like get it up super quick, so I used bolt.new to create a website as fast as possible and just hit all the keywords up, and that naturally. I think within a month, I think someone reached out because they wanted a day pass, and they just asked ChatGPT, what's the closest coworking space that has a day pass within a 1 hour drive, and we came up. So, and that was me not doing any AEO, and this is a year and a half ago. So doing proper SEO can get you pretty far, at least from an AI perspective.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. This is great.
Cool. Yeah, no, totally. This is dope. So ads. So everyone knows that I'm very much like an organic storytelling kind of marketer. So ads has always been a thing that I can strategize, but I always find difficulty implementing because Google Ads keeps changing their interface, and I just don't have the brain space to be able to also be a performance marketer. So so like I can run ads and I do them, but optimizing and all that stuff, I got my friends and partners that I work with to be able to help execute. That being said, like I found a cool stack using for Google Ads specifically, but this could be applying to Meta Ads, as well as the other ad platforms, Reddit, et cetera, Twitter. But I'm finding a lot of success running with Go Marble. They have a free tier which allows for really good read-only for at least one account per account, and that gives some good visibility. They do have the ability, if you have the paid version, I think it's like $80 a month, to be able to actually write specifically to your ad platform. But I gotta kind of this didn't pop up. That's good. Oh, yeah, that's good. It didn't. But don't worry about the placeholders. Ignore them. We'll zoom in. So think of it like this. When I ask a question to Claude, I'm basically saying, run a performance check. I need to know exactly. So my wife's running a Google Ads campaign, which I'm running for. Basically, like just responsive search ads. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, I need to know how the performance is going for the ads. I need to be able to know exactly which keywords which ad campaigns are running, more effectively. And then from there, be able to like assess what kind of changes can we make. And a lot of times it's like, you need to add these negative keywords, introduce a new ad campaign, and Go Marble can check to give that feedback really well. It's pretty good for being able to provide like some insight from an audit standpoint. And then what I usually do is Google Ads has an MCP that you can use to also interface and just double check to see, is this ad campaign running, And then what I'll do is I'll ask it to provide a bulk script. Two ways to automate without having to use like an MCP, because Google Ads MCP doesn't allow writing to an ad platform, is you can ask it to write a bulk script. It's kind of like I don't know if it's like a JavaScript, JSON or something like that. But basically, like it creates a script. You go into the Google Ads interface, and you go to the it's like a bulk section. Then you go to the script section, and you paste the script, and you hit preview and make sure it runs, and you run it. And that allows you to be able to directly add the ad copy and ad campaigns straight into to your Google Ads platform without having to click around and do that silly stuff that I can't stand. The other side of it is if it's not just adding like that, maybe it's different parts. Maybe it's like adding negative keywords or whatever. The Google Ads editor, which is a Mac or a PC app that you could download, you can also directly like paste things into that Claude can provide you that will add negative keywords, for instance, into Google Ads, into a specific campaign for you. Which again, I'm trying to automate as much as possible. Is perfect? No, I could probably pay $80 a month extra for Go Marble to probably do it, but because I'm trying not to spend like $50 to $100 on 100 different tools, and if we can do it in a way that saves money, like you can go do it this way, and that helps at least as well too for being able to automate that.
And are you going through Claude to get all this information? Is that your main interface?
Yeah, like thinking of it like Claude entirely. I usually do through Claude Chat just for the speed of it, but. I'll just ask it to connect to Go Marble, which is a connector. I'll ask it to go to Google Ads, which is a connector. And I'll basically like ask it to use Go Marble to review how the ad performance is doing. Then I'll run it through Google Ads as an MCP to be able to say, hey, like, can you go ahead and provide me like some campaign edits that we need to do in bulk? And it'll usually it'll point me either to Google Ads Editor or it'll point me to the bulk script section to be able to do ad imports as well. And when I'm really, really like slammed, if for instance I'm setting up, I did this before where it's like I needed to create a new goal and create a new conversion script to be able to put into the website. I just opened Claude for Chrome and I just asked Claude Chat to be like, what I'm trying to do, create a prompt that I can give to Claude for Chrome to be able to go ahead and just create the new goal directly in my browser and pull the script for me. And it'll provide me a prompt. I bring it over to Claude for Chrome. I just paste it in there, and it'll spend like 15 minutes just clicking around in my Google Ads to be able to create a new goal and pull a script for me as well. So that's also the other aspect, which I found super handy because, again, I don't like to navigate the UI all that much because it keeps changing. So that's another third kind of thing that I do using Claude to be able to automate and go and have a coffee or like work on something else.
Incredible.
No. So it's fun. That's aspect of ads that's kind of interesting. But again, like, for me, especially knowing what my strengths and weaknesses are, and while I'm good with ad strategy, the actual implementation I just suck at. So being able to have this is to be able to help for it. Helps a lot. But every ad needs to have a landing page, and if we're sending to the homepage, you're doing your job wrong. So the question is, how do you build out a really good landing page that that's optimized for conversions, that has the proper has proper forms in place and asks the right questions and sends to you for that matter, right? So what I found really useful, don't mind the placeholders, is using this. So I used Claude Design to be able to, first off, I use Claude Chat to be able to create.
Nice.
Sorry, it's funny. I'm so ADHD that I'm looking at this and it just screws up my speaking. So I'm going to move it down. This is the workflow. Workflow is Claude Design for the actual design work. Impeccable, which we'll talk about in a sec, to be able to make it not so AI-like, and then bringing it to Claude Code to be able to design as well too, right? Okay. Think of it like this workflow for what it is. Now, I think most of y'all have played around with Claude Design if you're in Claude, and it's great. I usually start with a Claude Chat or Claude Cowork chat and just, this is, what I want to do, help me design basically like a landing page, for instance. If you could do that through design, or you could just do it in Claude Chat and Cowork and just ask it to do a mock-up. But either way, you're essentially like designing a really cool, unique interface. Sometimes if I'm really picky about the copy that's going to be on there, I'll put it to Claude Design so I can just be a little bit more granular. But if I'm not, and I just want to kind of throw something against the wall and figure it out later, I'll just put it straight to Claude Code from Chat and just prompt it to create the landing page.
So this isn't sequential. This isn't Claude Design and then Claude Code. It's Claude Design or Claude Code.
No, it's Claude Design then Claude Code. At least for what I do. I'm sure like there's an aspect where you could design in a Claude Design and then output it to Figma and go from there. You can take it and output the I would put it to Claude Code directly if you'd like to. I usually go straight to Claude Code and then have it pushed to GitHub and then have Vercel pull it. That's usually my stack for getting it live. But everyone's got their own way of basically like publishing their websites.
And you can just ask Claude Code to publish on Vercel. I love how straightforward it's become.
Very straightforward. And that's always like, I think they say like, I think that someone wrote a newsletter and a subject line last week, and the subject line said something like vibe coding dies at localhost. You know what I mean? Because everyone knows how to code stuff, but when they're vibe coding with whatever, it's Codex or if it's Cloud Code, but people just get stuck at the point of being able to go from localhost to Vercel, right? So it's getting easier, and that's the part that matters.
Yeah.
But actually, the part that also matters is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Impeccable. Tell me about this.
So Impeccable, I'm a big, massive fan with Impeccable because Impeccable. So I was just talking to my cousin yesterday, and she got a website set up, and it was designed in Claude Code, but she was just bothered because it's like it just looks like every other Claude Code website out there. And another one of my clients as well too told me about a month ago, and he was just like, I could look at a site now and just could tell when it's made by Claude Code, right? It's the same framework, same fonts, same colors, same layouts, everyone's website now looks the same, just like we talk about the dead internet theory kind of stuff, right? So that's where like you need a tool like Impeccable, for instance, that will remove those AI isms, you know, as part of it, right? Comes with like a stack.
It's a real red flag when I see there's so many websites selling AI services, and you see the website so poorly designed, and it's like, clearly you could do a better job than this. Like, I love this, the work of this guy on X, Victor Octby or something like that.
Yeah.
And he takes videos and animates websites with that, and I just think it's so much more powerful.
So I would say that Impeccable is neat because usually I'll drop it in Claude Code, like a website, after it's kind of built that V1 of it.
Where does somebody get Impeccable from?
Oh, it's in the Claude Marketplace. So you could just, it's been a while since I added it, but if you look at if you're in Claude Code and you look at the Marketplace for Impeccable, you should be able to find it there. It's one of the more recommended tools out there. So you could type /audit /critique /polish /animate /typeset /boulder /colorize. And it will hyper specifically focus on that area to be able to look for improvements that it could make. Not just from like removing the AI isms from it, but also like where it can make improvements to be able to do it. So like audit does more of a technical back-end audit to make sure it looks like good from like a performance standpoint and other aspects. Critique gives it a real like heavy visual design kind of look. So a visual hierarchy, you know what I mean? Things like when it comes to like you're looking at the UX, is it overwhelming or does it need more, you know? Polish is like you're right about to publish, and you just want to make sure that the last little details, margins, paddings, like layouts, etc., are kind of a fit for what it is. But these are the ones here that kind of I find the most fun out of. Animate it'll improve animations on your site in a very kind of like, not a really crazy psychotic way. It's actually very subtle, but those subtleness is things that you don't think of that /animate potentially could recommend you be able to do. Typeset's nice because it does fonts, and I don't remember the names, like Corma Grant or something, whatever it is, but there's the same font that Claude Code uses all the time. So /typeset notices that for you and suggests ones that might work for you, and then you just pick one that you like the best, basically. And so it does that, does sizing, weights, et cetera, right, to be able to help improve the typography on your site. Boulder is like, how do you make it more impactful? You know what I mean? Because sometimes a lot of these sites kind of just look like you're just browsing through a boring menu. You ever go to a restaurant and like, you know, the menu just is full of nothing that looks exciting. It's like, that's just like most Claude like code or any like AI website. So like, how do you make it more impactful and bold? You know what I mean? So that's where like it looks at how we can go ahead and improve the site from a visual standpoint that way. And colorize, again, similar. It looks at your brand color strategy and recommends things as well too to be able to improve the look of it. At the end of the day, every site I build, I try to use Impeccable for everything, just to make sure it has a good look and feel that looks different than other sites, so it doesn't seem so obvious for it.
Fantastic.
And then after that, you're basically off to the races. Once you have a landing page set up, this is the one I made for Myosin Law Firm, which, you know, I thought it's kind of rad because I asked it to be able to pull. I use HiveMind as well too, I believe, for this, but basically like pulling up like what are the things that you want a law firm to have when you just haven't heard of the firm, you click an ad because you're looking for help on something. like what are the things that they need, you know what I mean? And also covering things like this, like she doesn't do litigation, so how do we go ahead and make sure we don't have those people that are looking for litigation? And you can go ahead and have all that kind of merged into one place. So we built this as well too in a way that kind of gives a perspective of conversion more than our current site. And then obviously, like if you go ahead and choose that, then it goes towards a form that you fill out as well, and then it's good for conversions. I think that's the number one thing, most important thing as well too. Mm-hmm. So, and then you just again like use VW or something like that to be able to do proper optimizations, A/B tests, and then you just again whatever works, you just pass it back through Claude to be able to make those changes. But yeah, landing pages are super ideal and key for it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then lastly, but not least, is video editing. So video editing is like the bane of everyone's existence because everyone's trying to solve the algorithm, which is always pushing video, and everyone wants a video editor, but no one wants a video editor. And so everyone's using tools on their phone, whatever to design apps design videos, but it's like what tools can you use to save time? I love video editing generally. Like I even from like past life, I think it's used to be called Dundas Square, but anyway, the big basically Toronto's version of Times Square. I designed a video ad for a client using iMovie. You know what I mean? And it came out okay in like the early 2010s, but it's like, like video editing is fun, but man, it's time consuming. And I don't have time for that stuff a lot of times, especially if you're trying to push out multiple videos a day, that just becomes a job, right? So like I discovered 3 different ways to be able to maybe help automate the video editing aspect to it. Here's an example where, I had an interview I did with one of our members here at the coworking space, and I had it was like a 5-minute video that I recorded with him with my GoPro. And I was like, size it down to a 30-second video. And it used Premiere Pro, which is a really cool app that I was recommended to try out. I got it, set it up, connected it to my Claude using a local MCP server. And it transcribed the video, watched the video to capture those moments because I was like emphasized specifically on the community parts where he talks about community. I really want to focus on those elements. And it watched the videos, cut the clip up to be able to work it out. And within like 5 minutes, it clipped the whole video for me as well too. And then I can jump in and just do the final edits as well too, because it's not perfect. It still captured my huge ums and stuff like that. But I think there's some aspects to it that's still important. But that's where like
Aisha, a colleague of ours at Myosin, she created this clipping tool that's fantastic and has made my life a lot easier. And it's a similar sort of process. I'm just interacting with Claude and saying, get the most viral moments, and it comes back with something that's usually like typical AI output, like 90% there. There's a few things I need to change, but I can just be like, change the timestamps here, or start this one a bit earlier or later, or change where the video, where say we're doing a clip of this video, I'll be like, I want Reggie to be more prominent on screen, I want me to be positioned below. It will chop that up and create a short on that. It is unreal.
Amazing. And like that's the thing, like originally I used to always be like, hey, go do you get Descript or like use Opus Clip or like Riverside to be able to like clip up videos. But now it's at the point where you can like I said, like develop your own app to be able to do it, or at least connect through Claude to just prompt your way through it, you know what I mean? And I think that's or just run it through an agent to be able to go ahead and do it, because why wouldn't I be able to use this with the stack I tried earlier where I was like creating content for the week, for instance, right? Where I would just potentially design as far as I can, then go ahead and move from there. I think it's neat because I was also researching a little bit last night about what other MCPs might exist that I could try out as well. Descript, which I'm a big fan of, has a plugin or whatever called Underlord, which allows you to, it's like an official MCP to connect Descript to Claude, so you could do edits directly there as well. And one thing I thought is interesting, because I pay for Adobe Creative Suite or whatever, and mostly for Adobe Sign and Adobe Acrobat, and mild, Adobe Illustrator, because you can't do a lot of Illustrator stuff in Canva. But if you have access to that, you can have technically Adobe Premiere, which is significantly better than the majority of video editors, but also super daunting because it's like, the learning curve is a lot higher on Premiere. But that being said, there's there's an MCP, I think it's called Premiere Copilot, I believe, or like Claude Cut, I think is what they also call it. But it allows you to be able to connect your Premiere to Claude to be able to also prompt edits as well too, which I'm going to test later today. But wanted to also point that out as something that potentially could also provide some level of editing capabilities through Claude.
Mm-hmm. Too many tools, not enough time, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only going to get worse until we start making our own. But yeah, so I feel like, again, video editing is still not like, like most things as we talk through this, like you can run a report and assume that it's probably just fine. You can create written content and get pretty far with it. Probably almost perfect a lot of times. Well, sometimes. And then you have design, which it's okay, and video editing is okay. It's not like to the point where you can really run it from beginning to end from an automation stack standpoint. But if that's like what it is now, it'll probably be a lot better soon enough. And that's where I'll probably look back at this video and be like, damn, these are some archaic tools that I was recommending. You know what I mean? So that's where being really on top of things really helps,
Well, I was thinking when you were talking about Impeccable, I was like, soon enough, that's going to be integrated in Claude Design or Claude Code anyway.
Yep.
We won't need
100%.
that extra step, but it's the same with everything you're showing, You just have to be on top of it because things are changing so fast.
Yeah, but even still, even without AI, for instance, you can tell when a Canva template is a Canva template. At the end of the day, there's whenever you templatize things, and Impeccable helps untemplatize, but eventually it becomes templatized because it's gonna people are gonna notice the way it looks eventually. So it's everyone's kind of chasing after this idea of customization with the least amount of effort possible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, that's that's what I'm thinking. So at least this stack right now, it helps hold it down from a generalist standpoint. As a strategist that needs to be able to get shit done once in a while, but hopefully it's handy.
I think it's super handy, and as I say, I think anyone who I'm a content writer as my specialization, but I've had to and I've enjoyed developing skills across these areas, and it's opened up so many more opportunities for me. So I think this is something a lot of people get a lot of value from. So Reggie, thank you very much. How can people find you? How can they ask you questions? Where should they go?
Yeah, no, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just Reg. I'm sure there's a lot of. It's funny if you look up Reggie Tan or Reginald Tan, you get a lot of doctors. So it doesn't make you feel good when you're the only non-doctor with your full name. But anyway, Reggie Tan on LinkedIn, on Twitter, which I really don't get to use all that much these days, but probably should. RXGGIE10, so just the X instead of the first E. And just hit me up. You know what I mean? I think that part of this is that we're all kind of learning together in terms of what tools are going to make us all better at what we do. Everyone's workflow is going to be a bit different than the next person. Everyone's going to have part of the workflow that's going to impact someone else's life so much better. You know what I mean? And we're also still that very small percentage of people that don't really fully aren't fully involved. I think Blake was saying that yesterday's Myosin Monthly, that we're still a very tiny percentage of people that are actually getting it done. Even around here in the Niagara region, I'm hosting monthly AI talks because I'll usually do a field test to be what do you want to hear most of? You want to hear about AI, remote work, blockchain, just to throw it in there, entrepreneurship, and just overwhelmingly it's always AI. And then when I bring people in, the last time I did a session here, it's called Everything You Need to Know About Claude. Half the people signed up for Claude that day, maybe more than half, if they didn't already have it, because they were just damn, my productivity is going to get so much better, right? And I think one of the attendees, she ended up getting the full max subscription as well too, just because as a marketer, Pro going to get you so far, but if you need a max membership if you really want to take your marketing career to that next level. So hosting some workshops over here, getting it done. There's a lot of work that needs to get done.
Good man. Well, leading the charge.
We all are.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. It's always great to chat to you. And,
definitely. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it.
We'll organize another of these very soon.
Next week, we got plans.
For anyone watching, we're going to go through loops. There's a new tool that a colleague has created that's connected to HiveMind. So look out for that. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. See you later.